Hi, welcome to Dr. Joe Academy reading and writing class. Let me just go ahead and change my name over here. All right. So today's main focus is going to be taking a look into argumentative writing. This is going to be our primary focus for today's entire class. And before we get started, just to make sure everyone could hear me as well as see the Google Slides presentation, can you please type 1 in the chat? Okay, great. And let me go ahead and send in the link so everyone can join into the Google Slides. All right. We'll get started with the lesson on argumentative writing. So what is an argumentative essay? An argumentative essay is a piece of writing that takes stance on an issue. In a good argumentative essay, a writer attempts to persuade readers to understand and support their point of view about a topic by stating their reasoning and providing evidence to back it up. Argumentative essay writing is a common assignment for high school and college students. Generally, argumentative essay topics are related to science, technology, politics, and healthcare. In general, this is the structure we'll look at when it comes to an argumentative essay. So first, it follows with the introductory paragraph. The first paragraph of your essay should outline the topic, provide background information necessary to understand your argument, and outline the evidence you will present and states your thesis. The thesis statement. This will be a part of your first paragraph. It should be a concise one-sentence summary of your main point and claim. So once we get into our topic, it'll be much easier to think of the thesis statement. We're just going to read a short article, and that article will just start as a foundation for the argumentative essay we're working on today. In terms of body paragraphs, a typical argumentative essay comprises 3 or more paragraphs that explain the reasons of why you support your thesis. Each body paragraph should cover a different idea or piece of evidence and contain a topic sentence that clearly and concisely explains why the reader should agree with your position. Body paragraphs are where you back up your claims with examples, research, statistics, studies, and text citations. Address opposing points of view and disprove them or explain why you disagree with them. Presenting facts and considering a topic from every angle adds credibility and will help you gain a reader's trust. And for the conclusion, one paragraph that restates your thesis and summarizes all the arguments made in your body paragraphs. Rather than introducing new facts or more arguments, a good conclusion will appeal to a reader's emotions. In some cases, writers will use a personal anecdote explaining how the topic personally affects them. All right, so let's take a look at 5 types of argument claims. And I see more of you joined in. Let me just send in the link. And Nathan, can you go ahead and read this slide?
5 types of argument claims. Once you decide what you're arguing and know your thesis statement, consider how you'll present your argument. There are 5 types of argument claims that can drive your essay. Fact, whether the statement is true or false. Definition, the dictionary definition of what you're arguing, plus your own personal interpretation of it. Value, the importance of what you're arguing. Cause and effect, what causes the problem in your essay and what effect it has. Policy, why the reader should care and what they should do about what should they do about it after reading.
Okay, and we'll also take a look at how to write a thesis statement in 3 steps, because this is clearly something that is important for any essay, but specifically an argumentative essay. As I'd say, like, out of all the essays, an argumentative essay, the thesis statement is clearly one of the most important aspects because, again, that kind of outlines the whole purpose for your essay. And Liam, can you go ahead and read this slide?
How to write a thesis statement in 3 steps. Your thesis statement is only 1 sentence long, but it's the most important part of your argumentative essay. The thesis appears in your introductory paragraph, summarizes what your argumentative essay will be about, and primes the reader for what's to come. 3 steps will help you get your point across clearly and concisely. turn the topic into a question and answer it. Set up a big question in the title of your essay or within the first few sentences. Then build up to answering that question in your thesis statement. For example, in your title or introduction, you could post a question, what's the best type of sandwich? And then answer with your thesis statement. The best type of sandwich is peanut butter and jelly. This method is effective because intriguing questions draw the readers in and encourage them to keep reading to find the answer.
Okay, and Ethan, can you go ahead and read this slide?
Okay. 2. State an argument, then refute it. Introduce an idea that contrasts. What the? Give me a second, sir. Oh yeah, sorry about that. With your belief, and immediately explain why you disagree with it. For example, while some people believe peanut butter and jelly sandwiches are too simple, they're versatile sandwiches that you can easily turn into a gourmet meal. This method is effective because it uses evidence and immediately demonstrates your credibility. Number 3, briefly outline your points. Introduce your main point and explain how you'll back it up. For example, you can turn a peanut butter and jelly sandwich into a gourmet meal by using artisanal bread, toasting the bread, and adding additional toppings. This method is effective because it gives readers a clear idea of everything you'll discuss in your essay. It also serves as a roadmap to help keep you organized and on track.
Okay, great job. And let's take a look at also the difference between argumentative and persuasive essays. David, can you go ahead and read this slide?
Difference between argumentative and persuasive essay. As discussed before, argumentative essays are a genre of writing that attempts to convince the reader to accept the writer's idea as true. In other words, an argumentative essay is based on logic and reasons, while a persuasive essay is based on emotions and personal opinions. When it comes to preparations before writing an argumentative essay, the writer needs to do thorough research on the subject before, but does not need to have knowledge about the audience. On the other hand, the writer can write a persuasive essay without doing much research, but he should have certain knowledge about the audience.
All right, so let's take a look at tips for organizing an argumentative essay. So we're going to be addressing a topic known as flow, and then we'll kind of see it get broken down. And Annabelle, can you go ahead and read this slide?
Tips for organizing an argumentative essay. Addressing flow. Tips for organizing an argumentative essay. Flow, in regard to a characteristic of an essay, is a fairly murky and general concept that could cover a wide range of issues. However, most often, if you're worried about flow, your concerns actually have their roots in focus and organization. Paragraphs may not clearly relate to the back of the thesis or each other, or important points may be buried by less important information. These tips, though by no means exhaustive, are meant to help you create a cohesive, flowing, argumentative essay. While this handout was written with argumentative essays, particularly within the humanities, in mind, many of the general ideas behind them apply to a wide range of disciplines.
All right, great job. And Nathan, can you go ahead and read this slide?
Rewrite/outline. There are not many aspects of writing process that are universally dreaded as the outline. Sometimes it can feel like pointless extra work. It actually is your best safeguard against losing focus in the paper, preserves organization throughout, and just generally makes it easier to sit down and write an essay. It doesn't matter what form your outline takes as long as it's something that details what points you want and in what order. Figuring out your main points before you start drafting keeps you on topic and considering order will make transitions easier and more meaningful.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought it was unmuted. Liam, can you go ahead and read this slide?
Make sure you begin each paragraph with a topic sentence. A topic sentence should state the point/claim you make in your paragraph. Example: Carl uses Alice's conversation with the Cheshire Cat about madness, both to explain the world of Wonderland and critique of Victorians, emphasizes on facts and reason. A topic sentence should not be description, summary, or general background information. Example: in Alice in Wonderland, Alice has a conversation with the Cheshire Cat about madness.
Okay, and Ethan, can you go ahead and read this slide?
Okay. 3. Make sure every topic sentence and therefore every paragraph relates directly back to your thesis statement. Each topic sentence should say why/how the content of the paragraph matters to your overall argument. If your thesis claims that Alice in Wonderland critiques Victorian education for children by doing X and also Y, every topic sentence of each of your body paragraphs should have to relate to Victorian education and X and or Y. If your paragraph doesn't relate to your thesis, consider incorporating it into another one or cutting it out entirely. You might want to talk about the white hair as a symbol for Victorian obsession with time. However, if your paper as a whole is otherwise about passages/paragraphs that critique Victorian education, then it is out of place and will only confuse your paper's focus.
Okay, and David, can you go ahead and read this slide?
Effective transition between paragraphs. Transition should be used to mark a connection/opposition between a previous point and your current one. Connection. Paragraph A talks about Alice's encounter with the caterpillar. Paragraph B. Similarly, Alice encounters another strange creature in the form of the Cheshire Cat, whom, like the caterpillar, she holds a conversation with, larger implications for the world of the novel. Opposition. The details of how the madness of Wonderland critiques the fact-based Victorian England. Despite the nature of madness and criticism of facts and order, there's a kind of logic to Wonderland, and it is deliberately inversive.
All right, and the final part is, of course, reread your paper, but this is more of something that you'll do for homework when you revisit your paper after receiving the feedback. Even today during class, I don't expect anyone to complete an entire argumentative essay. I do expect the introduction to be finished and the first body paragraph to be finished as well. I would really like it if we could get started on the second body paragraph and even get as close as finished with the second body paragraph. But right now, these are the goals that we're going to set for ourselves: the introduction and a finished, completed first body paragraph. And remember, this is not a persuasive essay where you can fill it with your own personal opinions, as well as even just a more emotional stance on the argument. Rather, you have to stick to cold-hearted facts. Facts is what works with an argumentative essay. You need as much evidence as possible. So when I do give this time, I do also account for the fact that you might need to do a little bit of research. Again, the research doesn't need to help support your own argument. It doesn't need to help you gather information about what you're going to support. Rather, you make a choice saying, this is my stance, and then you specifically go and look for evidence that will support your stance. That way, you don't waste too much time in terms of research. So we'll get started with this article first. This article is more of a conversation and it does go over a lot of different studies and facts. So I did choose that for that specific reason. I like articles that reference a lot of different studies, especially when we're using it as a foundation for an argumentative essay. But you can also feel free to find your own research. So the topic here is the pros and cons of universal basic income. So when it comes to universal basic income, think of it as a monthly or even bi-weekly paycheck that every adult or every independent person in a country gets just to kind of cover their universal needs. That includes shelter, food, any other basic needs that a human being might require. Again, just a basic amount that everyone gets. It's not something that exists, but it was something that people might have seen during COVID-19, especially around that time, that is really similar to a universal basic income. So this practically analyzes the pros and cons of universal basic income. All right, so let's go through these slides. Okay, Nathan, can you go ahead and read the first slide?
The pros and cons of universal basic income. Unconditional cash payments to residents are more of a floor to stand than on a safety net. Say these Carolina scholars in line of a proposed pilot to give $500 per month to formerly incarcerated Durham, North Carolina residents. The idea of governments giving residents no strings attached cash payments is picking up steam due in part of the economic impact of the coronavirus pandemic. Last June, Mayor Michael Tubbs of Stockton, California created Mayors for Guaranteed Income, a coalition to advocate for guaranteed income, direct recurring cash payments that lifts all of our communities, building a resilient, just like America. Durham Mayor Steve Shule joined in the group. In January, Shule announced that Durham was one of the 30 U.S. cities being considered to receive a $500,000 slice of a $15 million gift from Twitter co-founder and CEO Jack Dorsey. The money would fund universal basic income pilot projects such as the Stockton Economic Empowerment Demonstration. Durham Council member Mark Anthony Milton announced that Durham's proposed project would guarantee $500 per month to 55 formerly incarcerated residents until the pandemic ends and the city economy recovers. Before the pandemic hit, 2020 Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang put UBI, also known as Guaranteed Basic Income, on the map by making its signature policy. It proposed freedom dividend, $1,000 per month, payments to every American adult who's responsible to job displacement by automation. For a deeper understanding of this issue, the Well spoke with two Carolina faculty members who have studied UBI. Fabian Wendt, a teaching assistant professor in the College of Arts and Sciences Philosophy Department and the Philosophy, Politics, and Economics program, first came across UBI while studying theories of distributive justice. Doug McKay, associate professor in the college's public policy department, grew interested in UBI through research into paternalism in the U.S. social safety net.
Hey, and Liam, can you go ahead and read this slide?
What is universal income? When did it is a regular cash payment by the government that is given on a monthly or annual basis. It's unconditional in several respects, in contrast to many other welfare programs that you only get when you prove your willingness to work. A UBI would be unconditional in that respect. It would be It would also be unconditional on what money you make, what you have in general, and what you contribute on what contribution you made to finance the UBI. Finally, it would be unconditional on your family situation, whether you're married or not. UBI is probably best conceived as a floor to stand on, not as a safety net. A safety net is only meant to catch you when you need it, which requires some institution to test whether you really need it, and that opens up all these worries about paternalism, bureaucracy, and so on. Whereas the UBI would be a floor to stand for everybody. Mac K. I completely agree with Fabian's description. UBI is a platform to stand on and to build a life on, but it's not something that's going to allow you to live a great life. The sorts of numbers that we're talking about are at most $1,000 a month per person. People will have a strong motivation to work. What are the goals of UBI? Matt Gay. The goals really differ depending on the policymaker, but also on who's proposing it. I think for lots of folks on the left, they see more of a platform to build your life on. So it's going to be there for you when you need it. If you think about the pandemic, when people are losing their jobs, it takes a long time for the government to react. Had we had a basic income in place, that would have been a way of ensuring people are secure, have the ability to meet their basic needs, and live a dignified human life. They don't need to appeal to various agencies. They have consistency in terms of being able to afford housing, food, and so on. It's an anti-poverty measure. You also see people from the left, the idea of UBI as promoting freedom. Oftentimes, we talk about freedom as being freedom from constraints. Some folks on the right, libertarians in particular, emphasize the need for government stay out of our lives. And thinkers on the left often point out that if people are just leaving you alone, you might be unlimited in terms of choices, but you're actually not going to be able to do anything unless if you have the resources. So the idea is that if people have a platform to build their lives off, they have resources every month, they can actually do things. They can meet their needs, they can pursue various projects. On the right side of political spectrum, people see UBI as potentially realizing a number of goals. Once they emphasize this is anti-paternalistic in nature, there's a element of government not interfering with the lives of individuals by imposing all these conditionalities on them, but rather than just letting them be free to live their lives as they see fit with the income.
Okay, and Austin, I see that you joined in as well. Let me just go ahead and send in the link. We're just getting through this article that's going to lead into an argumentative essay. Feel free to look through the notes on the slide. And Ethan, can you go ahead and read this slide?
Okay. The other thing that folks on the right emphasize is the way UBI might allow you to shrink the size of government. People on the left often think of basic income as something we're going to add to safety to the net and keep much of the safety net intact. People on the right often see it as a replacement. We're going to give people a guaranteed income and we're going to get rid of a whole host of social safety net programs that cost a lot of money and require a lot of people to administer. One thing I found interesting about Andrew Yang's proposal was his idea to let people choose whether they take the UBI or keep the benefits from current programs. Another thing with different proponents will disagree upon is how high UBI should be. $1,000 a month was Yang's proposal, but you could also go much lower or much higher. maybe even as high as is sustainable, as a Belgian philosopher and economist and chief UBI proponent Philip Van Parijs would say. Its sustainability would depend on how high it is pitched, but also how it's financed. It seems very natural to think that it would be financed through the income tax. That would make it a close relative to negative income tax proposal, which is popular in the 1960s and 70s. The influential American economist Milton Friedman was a famous advocate of that. But Andrew Yang and others propose a mix in terms of how it's financed. It could also be a sales tax or capital income tax or some other way.
Okay, and David, can you go ahead and read this slide?
Andrew Yang put UBI on the map, but what's driving it and why now? UBI has often been seen as a response to the challenge of automation, the worry that many people are going to be unemployed and replaced by machines. For example, truck drivers will lose their jobs once there are automated trucks. In the end, that's not a new concern. People have been worried that machines would replace jobs since at least the 19th century, but usually new types of jobs were always created somewhere. The idea of a UBI was brought up last spring as a response to the pandemic, an emergency UBI. The coronavirus hit so hard. Many people felt like this was a chance to get some serious reform of the welfare state going. In the end, we get the stimulus checks instead, which were not completely different, but a one time thing and not unconditional. These checks depended on how much you earned. One thing to emphasize to UBI is also how UBI would empower women. It gives working mothers cash to pay for childcare. For example, or it makes it easier to leave an abusive husband if you have something to rely on that's independent from the family situation. McKay says the other thing that I would point to are the concerns about income inequality. I don't think this is necessarily a great solution to get to the problem of income inequality, but I think the economic anxiety leads people to UBI.
Okay, and Austin, can you go ahead and read this slide?
Is there evidence that UBI works? McKay, there's been a variety of studies. There are a couple of really famous experiments in the 70s in Canada and here in the United States. There was a really interesting study in Manitoba in the late 70s where they had a whole town that was subject to a guaranteed income policy, a floor that families will not fall below. A lot of randomized controlled trials in low income countries have been using cash transfers since the late 80s, early 90s. Some of these are conditional cash transfers. In Mexico, for example, you might get a cash transfer from the government if you send your kids to school and take them for yearly doctor visits. And there was one recently in Finland where they gave $500 per month to unemployed folks. These are high quality studies. The evidence has shown that the UBI programs are pretty effective in a number of different ways. The caveat I will give is that they happen in different contexts, that the interventions are very different. When an experiment in Kenya is the largest. It involves around 20,000 people and unconditional cash payments that cover basic needs. It started in 2017 and will last 12 years. There are four different groups. One group gets the cash for the whole 12 years. Another group gets paid up front rather than on a monthly basis. I believe another group receives payments for a shorter period of time. And then there's a control group that doesn't get any cash. And some people report that it has changed how women see their role in the household because they felt entitled to have a say or how to spend the money.
Okay, and Annabelle, can you go ahead and read this slide?
What are the main points of criticism against the UBI? McKay. A big one is a reciprocity worry that in order to get access to public benefits, you should be at least willing to participate in the labor market. Think of the earned income tax credit. That's a cash transfer that goes to low-income Americans. But to get access to it, you need to be participating in the labor force. A lot of programs like SNAP, the federal government's Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as the Food Stamp Program, and the TANF, Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, another federal program, have work requirements attached to them. The Trump administration was trying to attach a work requirement to Medicaid programs as well. The thought is you should only get access to public benefits if you're participating in the formal labor market and earning an income. The question they ask is, why should some group of individuals be participating in the labor force and paying taxes to fund your UBI with other people who are participating in the labor market? One of the responses to this is that UBI recognizes all those forms of contribution to society that aren't remunerated. Think about parents taking care of their children or poor people taking care of elderly family members. There are lots of ways in which people contribute to a society. And you can think of UBI as reciprocating in that sense, remunerating people for those contributions. Went. Another common worry is that UBI is a waste of money on the wealthy. Why should all of those wealthy people get a monthly check? If the goal is to do something about poverty, then why UBI, since rich by definition are not poor? That's an understandable concern for sure. Why is that depending on how the UBI is financed, the rich will not be net beneficiaries. They will contribute more to finance the UBI than what they get as a monthly check.
All right, so this is the final slide. And Nathan, can you please go ahead and read this slide?
What do you think about the Durham proposal, McKay? This is the first time I've heard of a guaranteed income program that's aimed at people coming out of prison. I think it makes perfect sense. Part of the justification here is that the people with a felony record face a lot of difficulty in terms of accessing other public programs. I think they're actually banned for at least some period of time from federal housing programs and from receiving SNAP benefits. Fellows face a lot of difficulty getting jobs. Employees legitimately ask if they have a record and denied them employment on that basis. So it makes a lot of sense you would target this type of pilot project at these folks. If you think about who needs a platform in America's society, it's going to be people who don't have access to these other programs and are economically vulnerable in terms of not being able to get a job. And so I think it makes a lot of sense that you would target the program this way. Oftentimes we discuss UBI as a major transformation to society as a part of utopian policy. That draws a lot of attention, but I think the discussion might lead to simpler idea, just using cash payments in more of our society of more of our social safety net programs. They might be more sustainable, cost, more cost effective when trying to implement a full UBI type policy. For that reason, what's happening in Durham, a guaranteed income for a very narrow group of individuals. It is very interesting. One thing the pandemic has shown us is that the government got a little bit more comfortable with giving cash payments to people. Another thing I'm really excited about are these proposals to extend child tax credit, both coming from Mitt Romney and also from Democrats, which you think that's a basic income for kids. Every month they will get a certain amount of money, maybe a few $100s, and parents decide how to spend it. But the thought is it's kind of a baseline for kids. You don't want to spend too much money focusing on big UBI utopian policy proposals and miss out that there's a lot of interesting and potentially really important cost-effective policy proposals around using cash payments in very targeted ways.
Okay, so that brings us to our activity. As I already mentioned, we are definitely going to be writing an introduction paragraph. Again, this should include background information and a thesis statement. And we will also complete the first body paragraph within the given time, which is 30 minutes. The goal is to also get started on your second body paragraph. If you can also get that finished within the given time, that would be really impressive. What I want everyone to make sure is each of their body paragraphs should include 3 points of evidence, including facts and statistics to support your argument, again, for each of your body paragraphs. So make sure you have one specific argument to support your thesis statement for each body paragraph. And for that one argument, you're going to have 3 points of evidence. And again, the question you're addressing is, should the government implement universal basic income to address poverty and unemployment? Before we get started, does anyone have any questions about this activity? Okay, right now the time is about 7:40. We'll work on this activity until, okay, let's say about 8:05. That'll give us enough time to also get into the second activity. Let's work on this until 8:05. That's roughly about 27 minutes. It should be good enough to complete this activity. And at any point, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask me. I'll also be checking in throughout the activity. And then let me see. Okay, I'll stay on this paragraph that kind of breaks down exactly what you're going to need for the introduction paragraph, the thesis statement, as well as a body paragraph's content. So I'll stay on this slide. This will be something good to look at as you're writing, but please also make sure you're on the slideshow or you're using the link for the article as well. And again, as I mentioned, you can do external research. Okay, just a reminder, we have about 15 more minutes or 14 to be exact until the takeoff for this activity. I just wanted to check in to see if anyone has any questions. Okay, again, at any point, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask me. I'm hoping everyone's done with the introduction now and you've moved on to the first body paragraph. If there is anything you're stuck with, or if you need any ideas, any type of help at all, please let me know. Again, we'll take up this activity at 8:05. All right, Annabelle, I got your introduction so far. I'm hoping you're also working on your first body paragraph. And everyone else, the time is 7:59. We basically have about 5 minutes left until we take up this activity. I hope everyone is done with their first body paragraph or are close to finishing up with it. And again, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask me. All right. The time is about to be 8:05 soon, so everyone can go ahead and start finishing up with their responses and start sending it into the chat or pasting it onto the slides. All right, the time is 8:05. So everyone can go ahead and send in their responses. Please send it in as soon as possible so we can proceed with the takeoff for the activity. Annabelle, this is what I've received so far, so we'll proceed with the takeoff. Can you please go ahead and read it? Please go ahead and read your response. If there is something else that you have, can you please send that into the chat as well?
Does the government implement universal basic income? No. Universal basic income is when the government gives poor people a monthly check. Their goal is to solve poverty. However, the poor people have not earned the money. They had the choice to work hard and get a job, but they didn't. Therefore, the UBI should not give them free money.
Okay, and Annabelle, I just want to check in. Did you manage to start with the first body paragraph?
Yeah.
Can you go ahead and send in whatever you have done for that as well? Yeah, I got it here. All right, you could go ahead and read that portion as well.
UBI is unfair to other people who are not poor. Wealthy citizens earn their money by working hard. Poor people support the UBI because they depend on it.
All right, overall, good job with your response, but I would definitely recommend writing more in general. So I'm just gonna write over here. Make sure to work on improving your writing pace. The thesis statement should be one strong statement that details or that covers the primary details of your argumentative essays. I would also write work on improving your topic sentences. So from what we see of the body paragraph so far, I would suggest work on improving your topic sentences. Also, another thing I would recommend is diversify your sentence structure. Or I'm going to say your paragraph structure, as there are too many short sentences. So a good paragraph would have a variety of different sentences in terms of long sentences as well as short sentences. So try and manage with that. And Annabelle, do you have any questions with the provided feedback? Okay. All right, David, let me just go ahead and paste this in and okay, David, can you go ahead and read your response?
Universal Basic Income, UBI, represents a bold solution to some of the most pressing social and economic challenges of our time. By providing all citizens with a guaranteed, unconditional payment, UBI ensures a pragmatic way to address job displacement and income inequality, while also simplifying welfare systems. This innovative approach has the potential to create a fair, more resilient society. One of the strongest arguments in favor of UBI is its ability to combat poverty and income inequality effectively. Unlike traditional welfare programs that often come with complex eligibility requirements, UBI is universal and unconditional, ensuring that no one falls through the cracks.
All right, okay. Overall, good job with your response, but one of the main things. All right, your introduction is fine as it is, but one of the main things I want to go over is the use of facts, which is something that is not really evident within here. So make sure to gather evidence to support your response. Your body paragraph should have a minimum of 3 points of evidence. All right, and all right, your thesis statement is good as it is. The only thing I would also change is work on improving your topic sentences. So especially for an argumentative essays, think about the fact that you're writing it to be as formal as possible. So in that case, you would want to introduce the topic. Like you would want to introduce your argument rather than writing one of the strongest arguments. You would just want to introduce your argument and then get into the evidence that you have for it. And let me just go ahead and get the next response. All right, Austin, can you go ahead and read your response?
Intro paragraph. In recent years, the issue of poverty and unemployment has gained significant attention as economic disparities continue to widen globally. Many individuals and families struggle to meet basic needs, leading to increased costs for innovative solutions. One such proposal is Universal Basic Income (UBI), which suggests providing all citizens with a regular, unconditional sum of money to cover essential living expenses. Advocates argue that UBI could alleviate poverty, reduce unemployment, and stimulate economic growth. Therefore, the government should implement universal basic income as a means to effectively address poverty and unemployment. Body paragraph 1, alleviating poverty. One of the primary benefits of implementing universal basic income is its potential to alleviate poverty. Studies have shown that the direct cash transfers can significantly improve the standard of living for low-income families. For example, a pilot program in Finland provided participants with €560 per month, resulting in a 20% increase in overall well-being and a reduction in financial stress. Additionally, research from the Economic Security Project indicates that UBI could lift approximately 30 million Americans above the poverty line, providing them with a stable foundation. Furthermore, a report by the Roosevelt Institute suggests that a UBI of $1,000 per month could reduce poverty rates by up to 50%, demonstrating its effectiveness as a poverty alleviation strategy.
Okay, great job with your response. Just give me a second. I just want to go over some points of improvement over here. Just give me a second while I get this over. Okay, let me just go ahead and paste this in. Okay, in terms of the introduction, the opening sentence is broad and factual, but not particularly engaging. Consider starting with a striking statistic, rhetorical question, or a brief anecdote to draw readers in. For example, imagine a world where every citizen has the financial freedom to meet their basic needs. This is the promise of the universal basic income. Also, in terms of your introduction, include a brief preview of your arguments. So while the introduction mentions that the UBI can reduce poverty, unemployment, and stimulate growth, a more explicit roadmap For example, this essay will explore how the UBI alleviates poverty, addresses unemployment, and fosters economic stability, would help guide the reader. In terms of the body paragraph, expand the analysis of evidence. The paragraph could include more commentary on the evidence provided. For example, why does reducing financial stress improve well-being? How does lifting 30 million Americans out of poverty create a stable foundation for economic growth? Okay, and let's move on to the next response. Okay, Liam, can you go ahead and read your response?
Every day you think of not having enough money, but now you're saved with UBI, Universal Basic Income. This organization provides you with money monthly. You may have just bought a new house and you're facing some financial problems. However, you have a choice of UBI. UBI would be a saver for everyone in this world by providing them with money and resources to pursue their dreams. Also, if you'll get free money, why not? Furthermore, many face financial issues and could not afford their kids to go to school, but with UBI, it could flip those people's lives around. In addition, UBI would be a great choice for us because we could get many benefits, including financial issue. Oh, shoot. I think I wrote something wrong. For example, when trucks are automated, truck drivers could be jobless, and UBI would help sustain their life until they find another job. According to McKay, UBI is a platform you could build your life on and would be there when you need it. Also, according to scientific experiments, women in households think that they have more say in financial things after they get a monthly pay from the government.
Okay, great job with your response. Yeah, for example, when trucks are automated truck drivers. All right, let me just also go ahead and paste in this point of improvement. All right, first things first, clarify and focus the thesis. The thesis is clear, but could be stronger by explicitly stating how UBI addresses poverty and unemployment. For example, you can write the government should implement UBI to provide a financial safety net and prepare society for the challenges of automation. Improve sentence variety and flow. Some sentences are repetitive or wordy. With an assured income, individuals and families would have the financial security. Simplify this for a smoother read. Instead, you could write a guaranteed income ensures financial security for housing, food, and healthcare. And in general, strengthen your evidence with specific data. The argument would benefit from integrating concrete stats or examples, such as outcomes from real-world UBI experiments. For example, Finland or pilot programs, even in the United States. And Ethan, let me go ahead and paste in your response. Okay, so yeah, I received everyone's response. And Nathan, I'll come along to yours as well. All right, Ethan, can you go ahead and read your response?
All right. Universal basic income has emerged as a promising solution to address the persistent issue of poverty and unemployment. UBI is the idea of providing all citizens with a fixed, unconditional cash payment, regardless of their employment status or income level. One of the primary reasons the government should implement UBI is its potential to lift millions of people out of poverty. With an assured income, individuals and families would have the financial security to meet basic needs, such as housing, food, and healthcare. The safety net would reduce the devastating effects of poverty, decrease decrease inequality, and ensure that no one falls through the cracks in society. Additionally, UBI could serve as a stabilizing force in the area in the face of increasing automation and job displacement. As technology continues to advance, many industries are seeing large-scale automation, threatening the livelihoods of workers in sectors such as manufacturing, retail, and even services. With fewer jobs available, many individuals are left struggling to find stable employment. A UBI will provide a cushion for those affected by technological disruptions, ensuring that people are not left destitute while they transition to new industries or opportunities. It would enable workers to invest in education and skills training without the immediate pressure of financial survival, helping them adapt to a rapidly changing job market.
Okay, great job with your response, Ethan. Let me just go ahead and paste in some points of improvement. All right, so in terms of your thesis, you can make it more precise. And this is by focusing on UBI and its relation to poverty and automation. For example, UBI offers a practical solution to poverty and job displacement caused by automation, ensuring economic stability for all. Also, with your evidence, you can enhance it with specifics. So add examples or stats to strengthen your claims, such as data from UBI experiments, again, Finland, or pilot programs in the United States. For instance, you can write, in Finland, a pilot program demonstrated improved well-being and financial stability for participants. You can also mention, even though we didn't see too much of the results of the test that they did bring, I forgot in which country in Africa, they do mention one of the experiments that they ran. You could also reference that as well, but this is a pilot program that definitely did show improvement, so this would be the best to reference. Again, the strongest piece of evidence you could use. Another thing you can work on is also a stronger conclusion for your body paragraphs. End with impactful summary statements that reinforce the argument. For example, in a rapidly automating world, UBI ensures that no one is left behind, providing the resources needed to thrive in an evolving economy. Okay, and Nathan, let me come along to your response. All right, Nathan, can you go ahead and read your response?
This essay is about whether America should have UBI, Universal Basic Income. UBI has many pros and cons, and we'll discuss about that. Pros: 1, it decreases poverty. Adults get $1,000 per month and children get $300 per month. Homeless people will decrease and there will be less litter. 2, poor families are able to buy food and necessities. 3, it reduces stress, which increases mental health. Cons: 1, it costs a lot for the income for all the income to a large population. It takes a while to get everything running. 2, it makes people work less and it makes the government work more. 3, it might increase poverty because if everyone gets an income, then the fees in the supermarkets might raise and the poor people may not be able to buy enough food. In general, America should enable UBI because it gives enough money to everyone and help poor ones make a living. Although America would take a long time to do it, it is worth it.
Okay, good job with your response, Nathan. I just want to go over some points of feedback. Just move this down. Okay, in terms of clarity and structure, avoid starting with pros and cons directly. Present a clear thesis and supporting arguments instead. So it is important that you follow the structure we looked at. So in the structure we looked at, again, just to go back to it, let me just go to this slide. Again, this was the main slide that we stayed on as well. The introductory paragraph, this is the first paragraph. Here, you're going to go over background information that is necessary to understand your argument. And that's also where you present your thesis statement, which is a summary of your main point and claim. And the body paragraph cannot be split into pros and cons. You're only looking at one side. So again, with an argumentative essay, you cannot look at both sides. You're only looking at one side. So for that, you have to split it up into different arguments or different supporting points where you would support it with examples, research, stats, studies, and text citations. So let's go back over here. You can also work on detail and depth, provide more detailed evidence or examples for each point, counter arguments, acknowledge weaknesses in the pros and cons more thoughtfully, and address them in a balanced way. Or instead, I'm going to write pros and cons. Let me just change this over here. An argumentative essay would only require you to choose one side. Please make sure you only address counter arguments. But okay, counter arguments. Do not make the mistake of supporting both sides of the argument. Okay, in terms of grammar and style, refine sentence structure to avoid repetition. For example, instead of UBI has many pros and cons, we will discuss about them. Try this essay will discuss the benefits and challenges of UBI. Again, this is not the goal, but again, I certain things just need to be changed, so I'm just going over grammar and style. So Nathan, do you have any questions about the provided feedback and in general why this is not an argumentative essay?
Yeah.
Okay. Wait, okay, yeah. All right, so let's just move on to the next activity. Let me see how long this video is and see if we have time to take a look at it. All right, we're just watching this brief portion of the video. We might repeat this at the start of class next week as well, but we'll continue on with this lesson. So we'll just start right here from the analysis portion.
So some of these ones are, whenever we're looking at a poem, we always want to consider the persona's voice. So who's speaking, what voice they're using, is it first person, is it direct second person, is it third person limited, and what are the effects of that? There's always going to be a voice in the poem. So considering what kind of voice will always be relevant to your analysis. Are there any auditory elements, right? Now, when I say auditory, I'm thinking about how does the poem sound when I read it out loud? You have to remember, poetry is an auditory form. It was historically presented as a rhapsode. So the way that the poem is read out loud is super important to the way we receive meaning from that text. So I'm going to have a look at that as well. Hopefully there is some bit of evidence on that in relation to the poem. And the last one is volta. A volta refers to a decisive turning point in a poem. So where there is a kind of shift in tone and when we can see the direction within the poem shifting in some sort of distinctive way, perhaps signaling a development of the character or the introduction of a new idea. So without further ado, I'm going to get Flynn to pop the timer on in a moment. I'm going to read through the poem once and full and then quickly go through line by line and try and issue spot some techniques. All right, Flynn, are we good to go?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Virtual worlds. I exist because I think I do, not independently of you. I am what you see. I am what I feel. This much is true in the world that is real. But in cyberspace, I can dictate who to be. I'm in control of virtual me. Okay. So the poem is kind of written in this coded lexicon. It's as though the persona is using language that is reflective of online spaces. And in so doing, it kind of transitions us to the online world in which the persona is placed. Line by line, I exist. So the first thing I noted is the coded lexicon in the poem. So that's one technique. I exist because I think I do, or the repetition of the I 3 times in the opening line presents the idea that the individual is writing from first person persona. It's a very intimate dialogue, and the individual is really in high modality taking control of their presentation of their identity. We're 1 minute in so far. Not independently of you. So we have some direct second person appeal. The individual exists because they think they do, and they're kind of disconnecting themselves from the person to whom they are speaking. I am what you see, I am what I feel. Okay, the I am what at the beginning of those consecutive lines is an example of anaphora. So we could maybe make something of that. I'm also noting that the poem is moving one line to the next without any punctuation. That's called enjambment. So we've got first person narration, repetition of the I, direct second person appeal, anaphora, enjambment, the coded lexicon. So if we're answering like a 7-mark question, we've already got enough quotes for the first half of the poem, really. This much is true in the world that is written.
All right, so we're just gonna leave it off over there because it is 8:30. I'm just gonna quickly go over the homework. All right, let me just cut all of this out. We'll just come back to this, or I'll leave this over here. You can take a look at it. I'll just get rid of the activity, but you can take a look at the lesson. But we'll come back to this next week. In terms of the homework, review all materials. The writing activity is the main focus, which is to finish the remainder of your argumentative essay. And these questions might come up tomorrow at the start of next week's class. I mean, next week, not tomorrow. And the writing assignment is to write a poem of your choice and complete an analysis as we did, which is something we're supposed to do. Again, primarily just focus on your argumentative essay. Before I end off class, does anyone have any questions about the homework or the writing assignment? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end off class. I hope everyone has a great week ahead of themselves. Take care. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.